absolutely A++. And wee Nippy will have to resign now. It is a massive, massive situation for Nicola Sturgeon that she is going to have to resign, do the honourable thing. She's broken the ministerial codes. Once that legal documentation gets in the hands of the committee, and if Alex Salmond's team and the people who support Alex Salmond are right, that this has been a complete abuse of power and a political vendetta by Nicola Sturgeon against Alex Salmond. It's absolutely massive. She has only now got weeks to go before she has to resign, which is great news for Scotland. I think now she's just gone, I think she's going a wee bit mad. Yeah, when you're in power for that length of time, power starts to go to your head and you think you can do anything. But the Scottish people are here to rein in our power and not her to let her abuse her office, which she quite clearly has. Her and her husband. I don't know why he's not resigned. Obviously they think they can just ride it out. But the day of reckoning is coming. Woo, really massive news. Massive news for wee Nippy. Once they see that she has actually spent £500,000 of your taxpayers' money on an allegation, on allegations that were unjustified, could not have been prosecuted through the court, but forced it through anyway. Lied to the Parliament. This is the big thing. She's lied to the Parliament, and this is where it's going to come unstuck. That's her. Because she has lied, she will actually have to resign. Oof, absolutely massive news. She will not be able to weather the storm, and it looks like there might be the numbers to actually force her out. So it's going to be absolutely huge for her to actually do that. The other thing that's happening just now is obviously the ballot stuffing. Quite incredible.
That was about America, guys. Hello, my baby gorillas. Love you guys. Oh my goodness, guys. I don't want to be that guy. Was I correct? Was I correct, guys? 3 months ago I said that I don't know any other political. There might have been other political commentators. I don't want to cast them all in my shadow. But I was nailing it as a political narrator. I was nailing it long before anybody else was, even some of the politicians. I got it months ago, as you can see down here. This is November last year. So I mean, and we're into March now. So we're talking about nearly 4 months ago. And I was going to go and talk to you tonight. And I think it's important we cover this in the Scottish parliamentary TV. And I was going to talk to you with regards to what happened with, where is it? Search James Wolf today. So I was going to go through this forensically and actually try and dissect it. But there's been so much to do today. So much to do that I think we might just go into the twatter, the anti-free speech twatter, and actually just cover. I think I could just go through this randomly and actually just pull it all together anyway. So let's start with our Murdo. Mr. Fraser, very intelligent guy. I've already told you guys he's a very intelligent guy. Jackie Bailey has also done a very good job. And Nat King Cole Hamilton, I have to say, to a lesser extent.
There have been 2 votes in Parliament back at the end of last year asking the Scottish Government to release this to us. And only this week, subject to a threat of no confidence in the Deputy First Minister.
Now, the Conservative parties have done exactly the correct thing and kept the threat of a vote of no confidence in the Deputy First Minister still open. And they've still kept it open. However, I think it's now going to be a resigning issue, and I think that now what we're going to see going through the Twitter, that it's going to be a vote of no confidence in Nicola Sturgeon, because it's obvious that she's lied now. Even tomorrow, which I'll be down commentating on at the Parliament. It's now obvious that she's lied. She can't cover it up. It's not something that she can cover up now. She has lied, and we know she's lied. There is now corroboration with Mr. Salmon's statement, with Mr. Percival and Mr. Hampton QC, which I'll come on to in a minute. So although the Tories should keep the threat on John Sweeney to force him to resign if he doesn't hand over the unredacted legal documentation, which John Sweeney may have to resign anyway. If they don't hand over the unredacted legal documentation, then I think the Greens are on board as well, and the rest of the unionist parties are on board, and this is going to cause enough to actually force them to hand over the unredacted legal advice. And if they don't hand out over the unredacted legal advice, Sweeney will go, and then Sturgeon will go. Sturgeon, they're both likely to go anyway. So it's now only a matter of time. There's the numbers to force Nicola Sturgeon out of office. I mean, what has been alleged, it's still allegations, but I mean, it looks like a grenadier, let's be honest, that she has orchestrated the sexual smearing of Alex Salmon to put him in jail for the rest of his life, and to use every vestige of state to corrupt the states, different departments of state, and to put him in jail for the rest of his life and destroy him as a man and as an individual, to destroy his reputation, destroy his political standing, which came back massively when he gave his evidence again there. And this to me is criminal. There should be laws against the orchestration of allegations to criminalise somebody, and there should be standalone crimes, not just preventing the course of justice, but actually to say that you have lied, to actually try and put somebody else in jail. So the orchestration and actual liars. So we now have to not have any anonymity for the complainers, and we need to know who the actual complainers were as well. All of this looks like an orchestration by the SNP to destroy Alex Salmon, which is absolutely disgusting, criminal, and not just resigning issues, criminal, in the fact that people should come in and arrest them. And unfortunately, I don't think the police are that, because obviously the police are now in a hierarchical structure underneath Nicola Sturgeon. I think it's going to take a hell of a police inspector to come in and arrest the people that may well be involved in this criminality. Well, for some stammer, as I've not gone through it. Let's continue with murder.
The Scottish Government now agreed to release some legal advice to us. That was intimated to us last night. Can I ask you, Lord Advocate, when did Mr. Sweeney ask you for your permission to release these documents to the committee?
A submission was presented to the law officers yesterday.
So the Parliament has asked the Crown Office to produce the legal documentation twice before, and they've just not bothered. They've just not. We're not bothering to actually give you the documentation that the Parliament has demanded that's been put in front of them. They've just said, we're just not going to bother. Just not bother. So what Lord Advocate James Wolfe is saying, that John Sweeney, which it should be a resigning issue anyway, what John Sweeney has not done is even put it forward to the Lord Advocate. So John Sweeney just said, I'll just ignore the Parliament in the first place. I'm just not really interested in what the Parliament says to me. I'll just ignore it. Won't even put it to the judiciary. That way the judiciary doesn't even have to put it in front of us, because it's not in the public interest, in your interest, to actually see this information, which I would dispute right from the start. It should have been.
Thank you. So when Parliament voted for this back in November and December, there was no approach made at that time?
the position is that ministers have formed a view that the first stage.
So the ministers were able to ignore the rest of Parliament when the majority of Parliament asked for this documentation to be sought out from the Crown Office, which they obviously knew because they were covering it up.
Of the two-part process in the ministerial code is satisfied that the public interest lies in favour of.
Right, so it wasn't in the public interest when the Parliament was demanding it, and now it is in the public interest because there's been such a hullabaloo about what Alex Salmond has said and everything else that's happened about it. what's been said about it, and now they're being forced to hand over this, which will show, which I pointed out, I just showed you the video, pointed out in November, that they're going to have to, she's going to have to resign for going against the legal advice from the legal entity. I don't know if it was Mr. Dunlop and Mrs. O'Neill, QCs. However, and they came out of this unscathed, professionally unscathed. They were the only ones with any credit to them. And the whole situation, they've just ignored, Sweeney's just ignored this.
Of disclosure, that's at an earlier stage, ministers took the view that it was not in favour of disclosure, that public interest did not favour disclosure.
The public interest was not served by covering up the fact that the Parliament had demanded to find out what the legal advice was to the First Minister, which obviously we know now.
Disclosure. Ministers have now reached that view. The question of law officer consent in terms of the ministerial code only comes into play at a point where ministers.
Get your CVs polished out, boys and girls, because there'll be a lot of vacancies at the head of various departments in the Scottish Government.
Are satisfied that the first stage is met.
Okay, thank you. That's very helpful. I think we might deduce from that what changed Minister's mind was the threat of a vote of no confidence rather than any other factors. But that.
So, what Murdo's saying is that even though the government, the Parliament had voted twice to actually get this information, only when John Sweeney's job was on the line, then did they become in the public interest.
That's something we'll leave for the time being. Can I ask you, are you... Sorry.
I was just going to say that's clearly not a matter I'm going to comment on.
He's just not going to comment on it. Oh, that's from the core. Thank you very much, the core. Let's keep going. We can just go down these. It just gets worse and worse and worse. Nicola Sturgeon called to resign. Oh, the Daily Rubbish. Oh, the Record. Sorry. Oopsie. Let's go with this one. Who is this? It's our old friend Paul Hutchins. Where's Paul Hutchins? He was at the David Irvin event, apparently. Oh, no, it's not. Sorry, Chris. Chris McCall. Fantastic. Nicola Sturgeon called on to resign by Tories following bombshell letter to Alex Salmond. Now, these are letters. I'm going to go down and actually get the letters first, because this is just one dynamite after another. Here we go. There's our friend Murdo Fraser. And this is Dan Vivers, who's the Sun reporter, very good reporter for the Sun. New SNP former Director of Communications, Kevin Pringle, and QC Duncan Hamilton have both, and that's not including from the summation, written summation from Jeff Aberdeen, who is corroborating that. So that's 4 people who are corroborating the same statistic. Same facts, corroborating the same facts against Nicola Sturgeon. Have both written to the Holyrood inquiry to corroborate, support Alex Salmond's account that the identity of the complainers was revealed to them in March 2018. So not only are they, I think they're corroborating another way, but they are corroborating the fact that somebody's name who should have been withheld for legal purposes was given to both of these gentlemen, as well as Alex Salmond and I think Jeff Aberdeen. So that's 4 people who knew a woman, a victim, alleged name, a victim that didn't want to come forward but was pushed forward by Lesley Evans. That was pushed forward by Lesley Evans, who was connected to Nicola Sturgeon, and pushed forward and pushed forward. And these gentlemen, and you're not meant to give out the names of the alleged victims or accusers because their anonymity is very important. So here we go. This is a letter from Mr. Kevin Pringle. What a great name. Dear Sir, Madam, thank you for your email letter of the 1st of March in relation to Alex Salmond's evidence session last Friday. The person I have maintained the most frequent contact with throughout the period in question is Jeff Aberdeen, who is a close friend and former colleague. As one of the three other referred to by Mr. Salmond, I can confirm from my conversation with Mr. Aberdeen that he is in no doubt that a complainant's name was shared with him at the meeting referred to by Ms. Bailey, who's the Labour MSP, and he made Duncan Hamilton and me aware of this in a call later the same day. In the interest of transparency, I also confirmed this point last November to the Ministerial Code Inquiry being conducted by James Hamilton. So James Hamilton, who's dealing with whether or not Nicola Sturgeon should resign, which she should resign anyway now. Second, again, based on my contact with Mr. Aberdeen, I know he was clear that the purpose of the meeting on the 29th, so this is back to Nicola Sturgeon lying to Parliament, 29th of March 2018, was to discuss the two complaints that had been made against Mr. Salmond, so corroborating Mr. Salmond's evidence that was given on Friday. I do not believe Mr. Aberdeen called me immediately after the meeting, presumably because I was not attending the meeting on the 2nd of April. Finally, I would appreciate the opportunity to set out a personal position on a wider issue. In the Sunday Times, the column on the 29th of March 2020, after Mr. Salmond's trial, I wrote, "Let justice be done, though the heavens fall, and no one other than the jury members could determine what that would be. However, my hope has always been that at the end of it, Salmond would be found innocent," which he was, "and Sturgeon would continue in office unaffected, whatever else may fall." Well, I don't think that's going to come to pass. I would say, well, obviously the first part of that's going to come to pass, but 100% Nicola is going to have to resign. Finished. Kaput. Finito. Unaffected fault. Where are we? End. Salmond found innocent and continues unaffected. Whatever else may fall. And again, on the 21st of February 2021, I have no wish to second guess the inquiry that are underway, but my hope is that Sturgeon continues in office without perjury to her position. That continues to be my position. Well, that's obviously not going to happen because we all know that there's more than circumstantial evidence. I can also confirm that I was told the name of a complainer by Mr. Aberdeen, Mr. Salmond's former Chief of Staff, in the early part of March 2018. The early part of March, that's interesting. I can't recall the precise date, but it was very shortly after the 7th of March 2018, the date Mr. Salmond received his letter. The name of the complainant had been given by Mr. Aberdeen by senior government officials. Oh my goodness. Unseated, all the feminists will go on a rampage. Yes, they will. The name of complainant had been given to Mr. Aberdeen by senior government officials. I confirm that I am aware of the identity of the government official who gave the name to the complainant to Mr. the name of the complainant to Mr. Aberdeen. So that's two separate witness statements to Dan Veers of the Sun through Murdo Fraser MP, MSP, confirming that the name of the complainant, which should have been kept anonymous, was given to Alex Salmon or Jeff Aberdeen, and then these two gentlemen, Mr. Kevin Pringle and Duncan Hamilton QC, obviously a lawyer, and lawyers aren't meant to tell lies. So that's certainly something. I mean, that's quite incredible. So let's go back to this then. I think we can get rid of this guy. Nicola Sturgeon called on to resign by Tories following bombshell letter to Alex Salmond inquiry. A bombshell submission. And this is before. We've still not got the legal documentation that's going to come out with the... Oh, my goodness. Come out with regards to the legal advice that she's ignored. The legal advice hasn't been put out yet. So I'm going to buy a fish supper when she resigns, battered. A bombshell submission to the Holyrood Committee appeared to back up claims made by Alex Salmond last week regarding the First Minister. Now we've got four people corroborating their statements, and it's going to be very hard now for Nicola Sturgeon to resist that, and also the legal advice as well. So we'll come on to how many she has potentially broken. So here we go. Let's make this bigger. There we go. So the Conservatives have called on Nicola Sturgeon to resign after bombshell evidence was published by the Alex Salmond inquiry. Legal advice first offered to the SNP government in 2018, but only made public tonight, advised ministers to concede a judicial review brought by the First Minister. So she kept going against it because, don't forget, the allegation is that the first internal case that was brought forward to petition was like the smoke screen. The big one they were trying to destroy him on was obviously the criminal one. So while he was playing catch up with the first criminal trial, obviously spending money on that, then the petition trial where he was suing the government, then the criminal trial would come in where the people were being forced into giving evidence in a criminal trial which they didn't want to do by Lesley Evans. Oh, I mean, really unbelievable. What a cabal this is. The Scottish Government, where are we going to tonight, advised ministers to concede a judicial review brought by the former First Minister. Lawyers warned in September 2018 there was a real risk a court would side with Salmond, claim that a complaints process he was subject to was tainted by procedural unfairness, or procedural bias as it's usually been called in the papers, or unlawful as well. They told ministers that in their view, the last worst option would be to concede the petition, but the government carried on with the review before abandoning it in January 2019 at a cost of more than £500,000 to the taxpayer. Don't forget that Alex Salmond said that this was there must be some sort of scale on payouts for legal fees, and this was at the top. So the government must have been deliberately very incompetent with your money. And she's been very incompetent and had to pay the legal entity almost the largest amount of money that the legal entity could actually be paid through the actual petitions process. That was unlawful. I think Alex Salmond should have been remunerated as well out of that. as they brought forward, I don't understand why he wasn't given money due through this process. This doesn't make any sense. If they're bringing unlawful processes to an individual, they should have had to pay Alex Salmond out, as far as I can see. Can't better that one. What's that? What you guys saying to me? Amadi. She's a Hadi. She's a Hadi. Amadi. She is a special fish. A special fish. You guys are killing me. Honestly. Resign Sturgeon. Yep, 18,000 tweets. Oh, yeah. Yeah, but isn't stand. We don't stand with nippies. Not even 4,000. Yeah. So, yeah, I think the normies are starting to switch on now. It'll be very interesting tomorrow. But it's bang to rights. It's a Grenadier. She's bang to rights. It's finished. There's nothing that she's going to be able to rabbits out the hat. Nothing. And it's going to be numerous people that are going to have to resign on the back of this. And in separate development tonight, a senior SNP figure claimed that Nicola Sturgeon offered to assist Salmond in the same year when the pair discussed complaints made against the ex-nationalist leader. So she's saying, oh, don't worry, Alex. Don't worry, Alex. I'll help you. Yeah. It won't look like I'm actually setting you up for all this. Don't worry about this, Alex. I'll do my best. Mediation. All right, you're not getting any mediation, Alex. We're just going to put you straight into trying to push these people to make criminal allegations against you, Alex. How did you like those apples? And we're going to do an unlawful procedure, internal procedure, and then we're going to get a criminal procedure where we're going to throw as many sexual allegation charges. I'm going to get my husband to make up ones down in London. We're going to get as many sexual allegation charges as possible against you. And then we'll just see what comes out of it. Oh, come on. They told ministers that in their view, the least worst option would be to concede the petition, but the government carried on with the review before abandoning it in 2019 at a cost of £500,000 to the taxpayer. In a separate development tonight, a senior SNP figure claims that Nicola Sturgeon offered to assist Salmond in the same year where the pair discussed complaints made against the ex-nationalist leader. Now, politics is a dirty business, and you may well get it in the back from sometimes it's your closest friends that are going to stab you in the back. And that's where it's seen here. But it's very strange for Nicola Sturgeon to stab Alex Salmond in the back when he was going out of politics. He was going away from politics. He was going to become the head of the press, Johnston's press group, before all this happened. Duncan Hamilton, that would have made him quite powerful in his own right again, mind you, but Duncan Hamilton, a former MSP who was present as a legal advisor to Salmond at a meeting with Sturgeon in 2018, made the claim in a submission to Hollywood Committee investigating the Scottish Government's botched complaints process. Whoa, Mr. Sweeney doesn't look too happy, does he? Oh, look, there's been happier times. LGBT thing, idea resignation party, few drinks, what happens in chat stays in the chat. You guys, politics is the art of looking for trouble, finding it somewhere, diagnosing it incorrectly, and applying the wrong remedies. Great, that's excellent. Yeah, that's about right, isn't it? See old weekend at Bernie president is bombing Syria. I don't think he even knows who he's bombing at this point. Some poor, I've got Syrian friends, some poor Syrian getting nuked by Sleepy Joe. In a letter published by the Inquiry, Hamilton said, "We discussed mediation. My clear recollection in that her words were, if it comes to it, I will intervene." All right, so she threatened to intervene, but conveniently didn't. Oh my goodness, that's quite interesting, isn't it? Oh, I'm going to intervene, don't worry, Alex. Oh, the rope's slipping, Alex, I can't hold it. Oh, no. Oh, looks like you're going to fall, Alex. Oopsie, sorry. Try my best there, Alex, I was really trying. trying to intervene, but didn't really intervene, but I was going to. But then my husband was phoning up people down in London trying to get you set up with other fake sexual allegations. Oh, right. I didn't realise that. Did you put... I tried to put some lube on the rope to pull you up out of the cavern. Didn't realise it was KY jelly. You were going to slip off. What's the problem, Alex? Why are you upset? Dear. From a legal perspective, that was the most important aspect of the meeting. I therefore remember it clearly. I discussed the commitment to intervene with Mr. Salmon and Salmon's former Chief of Staff, Mr. Aberdeen, after we left the meeting, specifically because it seemed very likely that mediation would be achieved. From Mr. Salmon's perspective, that was the desired outcome. Yeah, but that didn't happen, did it? There was no mediation. Straight to court. Don't pass go. Don't collect £200. Straight to jail. That's where we were going with that. The first minister did later change her mind. She was entitled to do so. All right. Oh, those women, those pesky women, changing their mind all the time. Oh, will you help me? Will you help me? Yeah. No. Thanks. That's great. Thank you. Only joking, ladies. But you do change your mind, Guerilla. Maybe she was just changing her mind for the sake of it. Yeah. I'll intervene. Don't worry. I'll make these complaints. Sweet. There won't be any problem. Yeah. Next minute you're in court, in jail. You're looking at 10 years. Yeah. Random chat night, David. Yeah. Well, it was going to be something else, but I think it's. I think this is more important. I think this is what's going to bring her down, and I perceive it's going to be in the next few days. I don't think it's going. I don't even think Hamilton's inquiry is going to be worth anything, because I think she's going to have to go anyway. It's not going to be a situation where we wait for Hamilton's inquiry because we don't know the answers already to the situation. We already know, and so we'll have to go. There'll either be a vote of no confidence in John Sweeney, or there'll be a vote of no confidence directly in Nicola Sturgeon, which she'll lose, because she'll just lose. I don't think the Greens will actually vote for it, because the Green Party are going to have to go down historically as saving somebody who looks like they've been orchestrating fake sexual allegations against a former First Minister and been caught for it. And if the Green Party are going to side with the SNP on that, I think there'll be SNP members who won't side with it to save face. Who, although party loyalty is very important in the SNP, there'll be SNP members who will not politically stomach this. So I discussed the commitment to intervene with Mr. Salmon and Salmon's former Chief of Staff, Mr. Aberdeen, after we left the meeting, blah, blah, blah. I changed their mind, sorry. The change was, however, a matter of surprise for a legal perspective. That change in position removed one of the possible alternatives to court proceedings. Oh, that was convenient. Don't forget, Nicola Sturgeon changed the legislation so that she could prosecute a minister in the first place. Come on. Oh. So, what a nuisance. Hamilton's letter was sent to Holyrood committee charged with investigating the SNP's government's botched handling of sexual misconduct complaints against Salmon when he was First Minister. Salmon took the government to court in 2018, and it was agreed the internal probe, which destroyed his friendship with Nicola Sturgeon, had been unlawful and tainted by apparent lies. And this is our First Minister. Oh, fantastic. Oh, I'm sure she's a great wee woman, isn't she? Oh, dear. And it's important. He was separately acquitted of sexual offences after a trial last year. Salmon has accused names in the SNP figures, including Sturgeon's husband, Peter Morrell, and Chief of Staff Liz Lloyd, of plotting against him to have him jailed, which should be a criminal offence and should put them in jail. The SNP Sturgeon has denied the conspiracy claims. Oh, it wasn't a conspiracy. We just all did things at the same time to try and put me in jail. Well, it wasn't a conspiracy. Don't worry about that. Don't worry. Look over there. Magpies. Where's the magpies? Oh, there's 2 magpies. Oh, great. Salmon appeared before the committee last week and gave evidence for 6 hours. He was asked about the meeting with Sturgeon in 2018 and whether he could recall what was said. He told the inquiry there's no doubt the people at the meeting, Mr. Aberdeen, Mr. Hamilton, were there. Certainly Mr. Hamilton was there when Nicola said that, and she said it to me in the private meeting as well, that she was anxious to assist. I bet she was. And her husband popping in, oh, I don't know, was it there? Wasn't quite sure if it was there. Just popped in. Where's the magpies? Reacting to the publication of the letter and legal advice tonight, Scottish Conservative leader Douglas Ross said credible witnesses have now backed up Mr. Salmon's claims, and legal advice shows the government knew months in advance that the judicial review was doomed. But they still went on to waste £500,000 of taxpayers' money. There is no longer any doubt that Nicola Sturgeon lied to the Scottish Parliament and broke the ministerial code on numerous counts. And I'll just show you how numerous the counts were in a minute. Great news from the gents over in Unity News Network. They're a great bunch of guys, those. No First Minister can be allowed to mislead the Scottish people and continue in office. Completely correct. That's why she's finished. It won't matter about the Hamilton report. She'll have to resign anyway. Especially when they have tried to cover up the truth and abuse of power, the power of their office in the process. And everything there is correct. The weight of evidence is overwhelming. Nicola Sturgeon must resign. Completely correct. She must go. Tease out games of bogey. No evidence she could provide today will counter the claims of numerous witnesses or refute that her government ignored the legal advice for months and lost £500,000 of taxpayers' money in the process. We will be submitting a vote of no confidence in the First Minister, and I think they will get it. I think the amount of people in the Parliament that a vote of no confidence will happen in Nicola Sturgeon and she'll be forced out of office. Responding to the Tories' call for her resignation, I think the Lib Lab Con Party will vote for it. The Greens, I think the Brexit Party, the Reform Party, the Reform UK Party will vote for it. Mr. Whiteman will vote for it. So I think, and they've got the number of stacks to do that. Responding to the Tories' call for her resignation, a spokesman for the SNP leader said the First Minister will address all of the issues that arise. How can she address them? How can she address them? Is she going to lie some more? Remember, I told you guys, once you get somebody who's a liar, who's been involved in a conspiracy, they need to keep lying. Lie. It's like watching a child dig themselves out of a hole, and they have to keep lying, and that's it. And that's all we're going to get tomorrow, which I'm looking forward to if she turns up. She might get struck down by the corona. That's probably what will happen now that she's heard that on the Guerilla TV channel. But to call a vote of no confidence in the middle of a pandemic before hearing a single word of the First Minister's evidence is utterly irresponsible. It's not irresponsible because we already know, we've got the facts. Though she may have some wacky, crazy ways of trying to get around it, but we already know. We've already got the facts from the legal advice. We've got corroborating evidence, and what's she going to say for this? What's she going to come up with? What wacky, weird thing is she going to have to say, which we're all going to be embarrassed at, to try and say that she hasn't done what she's done. We know it's not something that people have you can make up. We know anybody with an IQ over probably 80, which is questionable about our civil service, will be able to actually see through this and see for what it is. Well done, Davey. You called all this out before the MSN. Of course, thanks, buddy. Actually, Daniel, if you look back at my comments, I was there at the trial, the criminal trial with Mr. Salmon, and I was calling out the fact that this was a conspiracy. You have to look at some of my less viewed ones of the trial, and I was calling out, I was asking, was this a conspiracy by Nicola Sturgeon or the Unionists? It was obviously Nicola Sturgeon. Misuse of public funds. Can the taxpayer get the 500 grand back? No, Michael, she's wasted it. She's wasting more money than that, trust me. What we need to do is get a forensic accountant that does public finances and find out where the money's going. I want to know where the money's going, where your money's going. Misuse of public funds, blah, blah, blah. I think SNP Salmon loyalists will join Douglas Ross' motion of no confidence. It's not just that, Hugh. There's going to be the Lib Lab Con, so the Liberals, the Labour Party and the Conservatives will go. I think the Greens will go because they don't want to be on the wrong side of history as a political party. Margaret Ballantyne from the UK Reform Party will vote for her to resign, and maybe some of Salmon's SNP. I mean, the people in the SNP are going to have to look at themselves now and see if they're on the right side of history. Who else? Mr. Whiteman will probably vote in favour of her resigning as well, I would think. There's just too much. There's just too many things and too much and too many variable issues that is all against her. There's nothing for her going in her favour. Misuse of public funds. I think the SNP Salmon Loyalists will join. What about Rangers court case? To be honest with you, Marion, I've not been paying attention to the Rangers court case, to be brutally honest. So I'm not an expert in that, and I try not to talk about things that I don't have an understanding of, and I can't actually nail it down. So I just generally don't know. I could, if it's really of interest, I can follow up and find out, and I'll analyse it as well. So I just don't know. I know Murdo Fraser's been doing a lot with the Rangers case. I think there's up to £100 million, but I don't know what the £100 million is for. And there's 4 people that were involved in it, and I don't know what process they were involved in, but my knowledge of it's sketchy, so I don't know much about it. Hugh, if they do, I hope they do. And I would say it's a guarantee that they'll vote for Nicola Sturgeon. I vote no confidence in Nicola Sturgeon. I think it's a guarantee. So I don't think it's any thing. Me, Joanna Cherry pals will join. Oh, Joanna Cherry's horrendous. Just so you know, Joanna Cherry's pals. Yeah, Joanna Cherry's just another. She's just another terrible option in Scottish politics. You should look on the Guerilla TV channel, Hugh, and have a wee look at what I've already done about Joanna Cherry. Responding to the Tories' call for a resignation, a spokesman from the SNP, the First Minister, will address all the issues, nothing to see here, where's the magpies, and much more besides at the committee tomorrow, while the independent advisor on the ministerial code will report in due course. But to call a vote of no confidence in the middle of a pandemic before hearing a single word from the First Minister's evidence is utterly irresponsible. It's not irresponsible. I'm looking forward to finding out what she says. But if those parliamentarians tomorrow do their job and actually nail it right down, I mean, what's she going to say? It's for the public to decide who they want governing. And they probably are not going to want somebody who set the former mentor and former First Minister up in fake sexual allegations. Now, they definitely, I would say that type of individual is not the person we want to govern. That's just my opinion. I don't want to speak on behalf of all the Scottish people, but I know a lot of them, and I don't think that's what they're like. While we continue to fight the COVID pandemic with the election campaign starting in just 20 days, that is precisely what they will be able to do. Well, you shouldn't have been setting up your former First Minister with false sexual allegations. That's what people are complaining about internally within your own party. Let's continue, shall we? Oh my goodness, it just gets more and more exciting, doesn't it? Oh my God, she's looking there. Faces calls to quit. That's in the Herald. Let's see what Mr. Gordon's saying. Nice guy, lovely fella. Nicola Sturgeon, there we go. Is it Tom that's written this? Is it? In the Herald? Fantastic. Tom Gordon, great journalist. Fantastic. Nicola Sturgeon faces calls to quit after Mr. Alex Salmond witnesses challenge her evidence. Oh, witnesses challenge her evidence. So we're back on to Nicola Sturgeon is facing calls to for resign after two senior SNP figures directly contradict her account of the meetings at the heart of the claims she lied. Oh my goodness. In a potential devastating development for the First Minister, the pair of former special advisors challenged her version of 2018 meeting about sexual misconduct claims involving Alex Salmond. They also said that the government officials had been given the confidential name of a complainer. So they've not even just broken the ministerial code by lying, they've now broken potentially the legal protection. So I don't know what that would come under. Perjury, I'm not sure what that would come under by giving out the name. But some guys get 6 months in jail for giving out the names of the actual underlying people who complained. So they've actually so if they've given it out, why are they not going to get 6 months in jail? Is it one rule for one, one for another? Alex Salmond can still sue her. He can sue her, of course. And then the complainer could probably sue whoever gave out her name to Mr. Aberdeen and the other two gentlemen. So the person who's made the accusation can sue the government now. One eyewitness, an advocate, claims Miss Sturgeon offered to intervene in the government investigation of the complaint, something she has denied to Parliament. Another lie. Oh my goodness! It's like just trying to chalk up how many lies there are. The testimony supports Mr. Salmond's allegations that Miss Sturgeon broke the ministerial code by misleading MSPs, a resignation offence which she denies. She seems to have broken it on multiple levels, on not just one thing, multiple things. The statements were made by Kevin Pringle. I don't know if he's connected to the Jumpers, the former chief of staff to Alex Salmond, and the communications director of the SNP, and advocate Duncan Hamilton, a former SNP MSP and special advisor. The Scottish Tories called on Miss Sturgeon to resign, and I don't think they're alone. Confidentiality and data protection under GDPR. That's well done, yeah. That's definitely, certainly one of them. I think there's also legal court things, but yeah, definitely under that as well, mate. Yeah, good call. So let's go back to this. I want to get to the fantastic guys at Unity News Network. Oh, lovely fellas. Alex Salmond says 6 pieces of evidence prove he is a victim. So it's just getting worse. It's just getting absolutely worse. So remember on Friday when Alex Salmond was at the Parliament, and he said that I've got the last bombshell that recovered the bombshell, that he had actual documentation that his lawyers had that they had to get from the commission that was set up between the government and Alex Salmond's lawyers, both their legal representation, when Nicola Sturgeon's government refused to give the correct documents to their own legal entity. They had to set up some sort of commission between the two of them to force them to force the government to give this documentation, which included transcripts of conversations, which now shows the conspiratorial nature, of what's actually happened to Alex Salmond. So here we are at the Times, this is March the 2nd, that's today's then, Alex Salmond's conspiracy theory about Nicola Sturgeon. So this is something else on top of the other things. This is another thing that's got coming to light. This is actually being a conspiracy, not a theory, a conspiracy against Alex Salmond to destroy his life and put him in jail. So now we've got documentation between various people where Nicola Sturgeon quite conveniently has been taken out of the loop, but it's all the people under Nicola Sturgeon who have actually coordinated this, which Alex Salmond very cleverly didn't point Nicola Sturgeon, but pointed where there was actual evidence to all the other conspirators in this conspiracy, and not a theory, because I think people put the word theory to diminish the conspiracy. Alex Salmond's conspiracy theory about Nicola Sturgeon is built on sand. Alex Salmond did not look well when he gave evidence of Holyrood. Who's this guy? Kenny Farquharson. Is it? Aye. So the Times is getting alleged stories by the government. So if somebody like Craig Murray has been charged with something, they get information, a wee phone call. They go to the actual person's house that's been persecuted, like Craig Murray or the guy Hurst as well, and they get a wee phone call. Oh, this guy's going up for telling people the names of the things. The Times gets a wee phone call from this, and then they go and get the exclusive outside, doorstep the guy, get the exclusive after being tipped off by the government. So they're sort of biased at times anyway, so just so you know. He looked very tired and weary. I thought he looked great. Perhaps he needed to eat more healthy. I would suggest that's certainly true. I thought to myself as I watched, after all, he had been surviving for months on a strict diet of revenge served cold. Revenge served cold, is it? The former First Minister had Nicola Sturgeon in his sights. He sought to destroy her. I think it was Nicola Sturgeon that sought to destroy Alex Salmond. Nicola playing the victim, is she? With the world as his witness. This was his opportunity to prosecute his case. Salmond said, it's very difficult to prosecute a case when you've got the Crown Office redacting the information that you're actually supplying as evidence, isn't it? That's quite tricky. Salmond says that the very word of his testimony could be backed up by documentary evidence, which he was prepared to provide the committee, which we all heard in his last summation. And he said, just send my legal team the request and we'll supply you with the information. So I don't know, this is a very dubious article. This is not a truthful article where I can see so far I've read. So when he was challenged to justify his assertions that he was the victim of a malicious and concerted plot, he had an answer ready, 6 pieces of evidence. I don't know how that transpires as well, but it would be very interesting to find the rest of that out. Alex Salmond says 6 pieces of evidence prove he is the victim of a malignant plot. I went through them one by one. Oh, right, okay. So he's saying this is just a theory. Well, we'd be very interested to see what those 6 pieces of evidence were. That's certainly going to be of interest. Alex Salmond inquiry shows why Scottish Parliament needs more powers, not less. That's correct by Murdo. Very clever guy, Murdo. Lawyer, very intelligent, handled himself admirably throughout this proceedings. Came across incredibly well, very intelligent. Why Holyrood needs more powers, not less powers, which is completely correct to avoid becoming Edwin Morgan's nest of fearties. Yeah, my column, I think we'll read that in fact. Alex Salmond inquiry shows why Scottish Parliament needs more powers, not less powers, if it's to avoid avoid becoming Edmund Morgan's, who was a great Scottish poet, Nest of Fearties by Murdo Fraser. Murdo Fraser MSP, giving evidence to the parliamentary committee investigating the Scottish Government's handling of harassment complaints against him. Former First Minister Alex Salmond was damning of the state of leadership across public institutions in Scotland. What are you saying, laugh aloud? Weird, I think Morel will take the prick. Sturgeon, not so much. Oh, dear. Right, here we go. Alex Salmond makes his open statement to the Scottish Parliamentary Committee examining the government's handling of harassment allegations against him. There we go. There's a picture there. Great picture. Lovely. He was clear in his view that the Scottish civil service had not itself failed, but the leadership had failed, as had that of the Crown Office. He added, the importance of this inquiry is for each and every one of us to help put that right. My experience of the inquiry would lead me to endorse those sentiments, at least in part. What the committee has uncovered so far is a series of atrocious failures within the Scottish Government, civil servants and the Crown Office. But where I would disagree with Mr. Salmond is that this is not simply a question of leadership. There are some badly broken So there is something badly broken in the system. Our institutions do indeed need a better leadership, but this also requires fundamental reform. And Murdo's correct in that as well. Very clever. Sign up to the Scotsman, guys. Sign up to the Scotsman, the Herald. Support these guys as well. Even the Daily Record, Sunday, the Sun. Sign up to all these. Help them. I've got something in the pipeline that might actually help all the publications as well. Last week we had an extraordinary spectacle of the Scottish Parliament agreeing to publish Salmond's written evidence, then withdrawing the republishing it in amended form, following a threat of prosecution from the Crown Office. I mean, it's quite incredible. It was a subpoena act by our national parliament, which should be there to act fearlessly to challenge the executive and hold it to account. So what the executive is doing is corrupting the Crown Office and then using the Crown Office, who are meant to be independent of government interference, as their whipping boys for the rest of the Parliament, so that they can cover their tracks. That's not what the Crown Office should be there to do. And this is why I was wanting to talk to you about James Wolfe and what his role in it was. Mr. Morel will be able to lock himself up with the bondage BDSM collection. So, what have we got? Fearlessly challenge. I made the point to Alex Salmond in his evidence session on Friday, and he agreed that it would be inconceivable for the Crown Prosecution Service in England to act in ways towards a committee of the House of Commons, and equally no speaker in the Westminster Parliament would be so craven as to give in such threats. Yet at Holyrood, that is precisely what happened. Little wonder that the most eminent Scots lawyer of our times, Lord Hope, that's a great name, describes the episode as disturbing. Yes, I would say it was more than disturbing. I would say it had grave ramifications for our judicial system. And I think we have to have a look through our judicial system to see if that is working in behalf of the people. This highlights one issue which is clearly in need of reform: the extension of the parliamentary privilege in Holyrood, so members of the Scottish Parliament have at least the same protections that would apply in Westminster. If we are serious about having a parliament which can properly perform its role scrutinising a too powerful government, then MSPs should not be unduly restricted in how they can operate for fear of prosecution. So imagine the Crown is now overstepping its mark and threatening prosecution against MPs, the members of Parliament, by holding them to account so that they can't even do their job. Revamp, oh yeah, all needs revamped, yeah, I agree. According to the session, political observer Professor James Mitchell, the aspiration that Hollywood would deliver new politics. Certainly done that. Certainly delivered a lot of new things. I don't know if it's all been for the better, mind you, but maybe let's just put it down to it's the characters, not even the people in power, not actually anything else. She danced around judicial loopholes and skipped around questions with platitudes. That's right. That's exactly who. That's correct. In contrast to the Westminster caricature of adversarial binary politics, with backbenchers operating as lobby fodder for the government, has not been realised. It's not going to be realised. It has to be adversarial. There are people with different interests and different values and different opinions in the Parliament's full stop, and they have to be able to express themselves. A diversity of opinions is a good thing, and I think we've got five political parties in the Scottish Parliament. Obviously, the Northern Ireland has got more, and because of Scotland and Wales, they've got more. But I would say that the Scottish Parliament is more diverse than Westminster is, even though they have got more parties. But I think the parties come from various areas rather than anything else. In his words, the Scottish Government has hoarded power, not shared it with the Parliament and the people. He is right in his analysis, and it is not just leadership that has to change if we are to see improvements. It is clearly hyperbole to talk about Scotland as a failed state. It's becoming a failed state. We'll certainly get failed politicians. And by having failed politicians, you then get a failed state. Equally, it would be entirely wrong, the wrong conclusion to draw that the weakness that has now become apparent made the argument for rolling back on devolution. Yeah, I agree. I don't think devolution is the problem. Some people, commentators, have said the devolution. I think devolution is correct, and that model is correct. It needs strengthened. I think that's what we need to do. We need to get more powers, not less. Reducing the power of the Scottish Parliament. Indeed, and we might need an upper chamber, and then we could restyle the Parliament to something more palatable and have an upper chamber. Indeed, opinion polls suggest that there may be as many people in Scotland who believe the earth is flat as there are those who want to turn the clock back pre-1997. Yeah, I don't think there's an appetite in Scotland for having less powers in the Scottish Parliament. Some people do, some of the unions do, but I don't think that's in our interest or Scotland's interest. Far from removing power from Scotland, what we need to do is strengthen the Scottish Parliament and consider how we better empower the legislator to hold the executive to account, potentially a second chamber. From a particular point of view, there are a number of reforms that would be progressed. Firstly, a dual role of Lord Advocate and as head of the Independent Prosecution Service, and also a political advisor. So, firstly, the dual role of the Lord Advocate as head of the Independent Prosecution Service and also as political advisor to the government should be separated. So we have two separate entities there. It is now overdue for review. The issue was addressed in England some 2 decades ago, and the events that Salmond Inquiry Committee is probing into demonstrates clearly how conflicts of interest might arise in the current setup. This is an issue that the Scottish Parliament must urgently consider in its next session. This is how scared she was of scrutiny, of course. I mean, if you're trying to orchestrate a conspiracy and cover it up, then of course you're going to be scared of scrutiny. See, quicker it's under the carpet, the better. Both Westminster and Scottish Parliament need upper chambers. That's right, but I would not be given it should be voted for in by the people. Stop the corruption. That's right, Matt. That's correct. I think that's it. It has to be put forward by a political party, though, and that's the thing, and none of them are doing that just now. There was a growing unease within the SNP on the far left ideology. Yeah. Well, I'd be very interested to speak to people who are actually active members of the SNP about what's actually going on internally within the SNP. But there's certainly problems with the far left in Scotland just generally, I would suggest. I am more of a centrist, and so I take on board issues where the left are making sense and other ones that they don't. This is an issue that Scottish Parliament must urgently consider in its next session. In parliamentary terms itself, the committee system has not lived up to the expectations in terms of its scrutiny or legislation or ministers, not least because of the power patronage and appointment of committee conveners makes it less likely that those of independent mind will be given those positions. Yeah. I think that's what's required. Professor Mitchell is right to state that the Scottish Parliamentary Committee has been poor in comparison with those in the Commons. Perhaps we do need to consider whether a second chamber for Holyrood is necessary if committees cannot be improved, and the case for having conveners elected by MSPs rather than simply appointed by party whips should now be advanced. Yeah, correct. Scott also, he was on RT Edinburgh Fringe and was going to the Scotsman, so he would have a high profile. Cranky can't cope with attention being on anyone but her. Watch, she doesn't get an EU job. Yeah, well, I think she seems very much like that, doesn't she? She seems very sort of it's all about me. So rather than simply appoint by party whip should now be advanced, there is much more in the way of institution reform that will be necessary, including the extension of parliamentary privilege. And all this will require robust reforming leadership, but both within a new Scottish Government post the election, but even more critically within the Parliament itself. So we can see now there's going to be a big division in what is actually happening. We can see the authoritarianism of Nicola Sturgeon now being clamped down on. Whatever the outcome of the election, a majority government, another minority administration or coalition, we must ensure that our Parliament is better placed to scrutinise both government decisions and legislation. The failures that we have seen exposed throughout the Salmond inquiry process makes the case for urgent reform urgent, and we can't afford to see these repeated. The words of Edwin Morgan, written for the opening of the Scottish Parliament building in 2004, are often quoted but never seem more appropriate. A nest of fearties is what the fearties for the international audiences, people are scared. A nest of fearties is what they do not want. Symposium of procrastinators is what they do not want. A phalanx of forelock tuggers is what they do not want. Yeah, that's right. Don't worry, I'm coming. Sadly, what we are now seeing in the Scottish democracy, barely 2 decades old in its current format, is not living up to those high expectations. There is still time to save it. To set us back on the right path. If the right leadership and political will is there on that, Alex Salmond and I agree. Murdo Fraser, Conservative MSP for Mid Scotland and Fife, very good MSP, great guy, MSP. So Thanks for reading the article. Please donate digital subscription to the Scotsman, guys. Fantastic. I'll do your work for you guys. Don't you worry about that. So wait to see this. Oh my God, it just gets worse. Last minute wranglings over legal advice ahead of. Oh my goodness, what's this? This is a Herald. This is 3 hours ago. Off, right, hot off the press. You like this picture of the two of them? Last minute wrangling over Alex Salmond's legal advice. Scottish Government belated agreement to publish its legal advice on Alex Salmond affair has been hit by last minute row over transparency. So they're now trying to redact things again. So they got Sweeney's like that, redact this, redact that. I don't want to see that in it. I don't want to see that in it. And they've also said that if they do that, the Conservatives, Mr. Ross, has said if they do that, they're still going to put the vote of no confidence against Mr. Sweeney, who's the SNP deputy leader, and they will actually kick him out of his position. And they've probably got the numbers to do it. So it's all becoming like a house of cards just now. Forehead tuggers, easy for you to say, Davy. Oh, that's for sure, Mister. The Holyrood inquiry into the is that a wee jig dig at the size of my head? The Holyrood inquiry into the affair said ministers must release at least all external counsel advice and details such as minutes of all meetings involved in council. It said that the minimum of what constitutes key legal advice in the inquiry opinion. It says that was the minimum of what constitutes key legal advice in the inquiry's opinion. The cross-party committee of MSPs said the government needed to publish the advice on its own website as a matter of urgency when it hands it to the inquiry. The inquiry also issued letters to Mr. Salmond's lawyers and the government asking for other documents, including witness statements about one of Nicola Sturgeon's special advisors saying they will get the former First Minister. So this is what they said. They said they were going to get him after he had successfully won the civil case, the petitions case against the government. They said they were still going to get him after that, which was they were talking about the legal case, the criminal case. The Scottish Tories said they would force a vote of no confidence in Mr. Sweeney on Thursday unless he handed over all of the inquiry demanded. He handed over all the inquiry demanded. So let me read that again. The Scottish Tories said they would force a vote of no confidence in Sweeney on Thursday, day after tomorrow, unless he handed over all the inquiry demanded, which means they want unredacted, to see the unredacted legal advice from the legal entity that advised the government when and what they should do with regards to the prosecution of the case. And I think this is for the petitions case. John Sweeney admitted government kept defending Alex Salmond case despite reservations. Oh my goodness! So he's admitted that. The row followed Deputy First Minister John Sweeney telling MSPs that the government would hand over the advice later today. However, Parliament's officials require time to process the information, meaning it might not be handed over before Nicola Sturgeon gives long-awaited evidence tomorrow. Oh, how convenient, isn't it? Oh, that's incredible. John Sweeney admits government kept defending Alex Salmond case despite reservations, despite being given the legal advice not to actually continue prosecuting this case, and they still continued anyway. However, the parliamentary officials require time to process the information, meaning it might not be able to be public before Nicola Sturgeon gives her long-awaited evidence tomorrow. Publication is required before the MSPs can ask questions based on the material. So they're trying to filibuster and prevaricate so that they don't actually have to have the part of the Fabianini inquiry will not have the legal advice, so that they can't make any comments on what the legal advice actually said. Let's hope they have actually managed to get the information from Alex Salmond's legal team so that we can find out if there's been a conspiracy here. Oh, it's 8 million in Morell's bank for her Indy 2 campaign. Yeah, well. Publication is required before MSPs can ask questions on the material. In a letter to Mr. Sweeney inquiry, convener Linda Fabinini said, given the incredible tight time scale the committee is subject to as a result of the late receipt of this advice and in the interest of transparency, the committee requires the processing and publication of the documents to be completed by the Scottish. Oh, what happened there? Oh, they've just done something bad to me, haven't they? Norris McSquirter. Oh, I've already done that. I've already done it. Listen, going to do me a favour. Stop phoning me in the middle of this. I've already done it. I've already told you I've already done it. Stop, I'll phone you later. So, what are we doing here? So I don't know what happened there. That was quite interesting. Oh, has that actually changed? No. So I don't know what's happened there. But it was quite interesting what they buy the Herald tomorrow. So here we go. Here we've got Lord Forsyth. Oh my goodness, I'm just give me a second and get you guys back on. So here we've got Lord Forsyth. So he's now, this was 12 hours ago, I raised the issue of the Scottish Government not complying with the Civil Service Code in maintaining proper records of meetings in Parliament, answering more than 3 years ago. Yeah, so we're now got the Cabinet Office, Freedom of Information, to ask Her Majesty's Government what assessment they have made of the procedures. Don't forget, I've also put in to the First Minister to actually have a public inquiry. So I put a public inquiry into the Scottish Petitions Commission. I've then contacted the First Minister through her email, which she's not got back to me yet, and to find out whether we're going to have a public inquiry into this. So, and I think I'm being supported by Murdo Fraser. I think Murdo Fraser says that he agrees with me that there should be a public inquiry, a judge-led public inquiry into this, to ask Her Majesty's Government what assessment they have made on the procedures being followed by civil servants in Scotland for maintaining records of meetings and with ministers, which may be subject to the Freedom of Information request. So, I'll come to this in a minute. Asked in 18th of January 2018, all UK government civil servants are expected to adhere to the principles set out in the Civil Service Code. Civil servants working for the Scottish and Welsh Government and their agencies have their own versions of the code as stated in the Civil Servants Code. All UK officials are required to keep accurate official records and handle information as openly as possible within the legal framework. Answered 1st of January by Lord Young of Cookham. Cookham. Conservative Lifelong Pure. Very good. So that's very interesting as well. So I'm going to let's see what Lesley Evans has been doing. Oh my God, it's unbelievable. I could be here all day actually talking about this. It's just absolutely incredible. Where are you, Lesley Evans? Oh my God. I mean, bonfire of the vanities. Let me just get this for you guys. Oh, there's some are useless. Let me just get this. Come on. Okay, let's do it this way. Lesley Evans Burns documents. Right, here we go. Here, this is unbelievable. So here we have Lesley Evans, the head of the civil service, burning documents, Lesley burns documents. Where is this? Salmon inquiry told documents cast out on Scottish Government's position. When's this from? This is by the Associated Press, 2017, 17th of November 2020. This is last year's. This is not it. Why can I not find this? Come on, Dave. There it is. Come on, where is it? Inquiry. Where is it? Let's see if it's here. Go. There's all done.
A hugely successful one. So you've got to ask, I think Nicola Sturgeon's days have been numbered since the moment that Brexit did not go wrong. The fact is that if she had had her way, we would now be in the EU vaccination programme instead of running our own hugely successful one. So you've got to ask everybody in Scotland who's had the vaccine, would you actually rather be in the EU or would you rather be in the UK and having the vaccine? And I think that's going to make a huge difference. I think were there ever to be another referendum, and I hope there won't be one soon because we said it was settled for a generation, but were there ever to be another referendum, I think the economics facts speak for themselves as they spoke last time. I mean, what are they going to trade in? What is going to be the currency there? Last time the Bank of England said no to the pound, Europe said no to the euro. What are they going to trade in? Wee drams or something?
Wee drams, that's exactly what we're going to trade in. Wee drams. The Scottish Government released legal advice, 2nd of March. Oh, that's really annoying. Oh dear, I can't even find it. She went, So what's actually happened? Let me just explain, as I can't actually find it. The Lesley Evans has burnt the meeting notes. She burns it every month. She actually sets a fire and burns them. I mean, it's just absolutely incredible. I wish you could find this. This is a dead time here. There's our wee pal, Paul Hutchins. The government has published its legal advice. Salmon can, after pressure by it's got. So that's him just saying it's going to be published. Where is it? This is it. I found it. Thank God. So, things trying to get for you guys. So Lesley Evans attributes breaches of civil service code and failure to properly record meetings must be addressed. She's going as well. That's her. She's finished as well. Oh, it's in the Sun. It's in the Sun. Scotland's top civil servant may have destroyed notes of meetings with Nicola Sturgeon linked to Alex Salmond probe. I mean, do they think we're stupid? It's just, oh no, I've already redone that. It's just embarrassing that they're actually, it's embarrassing to us having to listen to this. So this is Michael just saying, Michael, so Lesley Evans has breached the ministerial code. Let's see if we can get it up. No, it's not even there. I don't even know why that's not there, because I would suggest that's relatively important. So Lesley Evans is burning documents to cover up. How did Lesley Evans get a job in the Parliament? I know. It's absolutely crazy. Absolutely. I mean, really, I know people in Scotland who are much more intelligent than that. How did she get a job in the Scottish Parliament? It's absolutely. I think we need to go through who's in the civil service now and find out what sort of quality there, because to actually say to us that she burns our notes every month when she's required by the Civil Service Code to be able to provide them through freedom of information requests, which Wings Over Scotland has actually categorised all of these. And it's just absolutely incredible. Absolutely, and she's burning them, and not providing these things. Oh, come on! Let me see if I can get the guys from Unity News Network doing a fantastic job. Let me see if I can do it this way. UNN. So the weight of evidence is overwhelming. Let's see what the boys are saying here. Fantastic bunch. So this is all from the Unity News Network. Fantastic, great organisation. Nicola Sturgeon accuses. Let me just make this bigger. Nicola Sturgeon accused of breaching the ministerial code up to 38 times. 38. Now I had it about 7 or 8 at a push, but up to 38 times. Oh, come on. When do we draw the line? Where is the part where we say enough's enough? 38 times. I'd like to see a list of all 38. I think that would be very appreciable if somebody is prepared to construct the full list of the 38 breaches. But I certainly got at least 7 or 8. Nicola Sturgeon accused of breaching the ministerial code up to 38 times. The 2nd of March 2021. The Scottish Conservatives have accused the First Minister Nicola Sturgeon of breaching the ministerial code up to 38 times. The news comes before Lord Advocate faces a grilling from the inquiry today, which is what I was going to do. I was going to cover what the Lord Advocate had said and deconstruct that, but there's just been too much on today. Too exciting, too much on. Faces a grilling from the inquiry today, as well as the legal advice being published today. The SNP leader will give evidence tomorrow to the Holyrood Committee on Friday last week. Mr. Salmond states that senior SNP figures conspired to try to force him out of public life over harassment claims. He also took fire at the Crown Office led by James Wolfe QC as he slammed the forced the redaction of sections of his written evidence to the committee. However, UNN's Oliver Down now understands that the Conservative dossier highlights dozens of instances where they say Miss Sturgeon appears to have broken the ministerial code. Scottish Tory leader Douglas Ross has said the dossier shows all evidence of SNP cover-ups, dreadful mistakes and terrible lapses of judgment. A spokesperson for the Scottish Tories has criticised the timing of Sturgeon's appearance. They said the timing of this appearance is certainly very convenient for Nicola Sturgeon. During Alex Salmond's evidence last week, the SNP MSP on the committee embarrassed themselves by trying to run the clock down. It was a hopeless filibuster, see they're using my words, filibuster attempt that failed. Now they're clearly trying to give their boss a helping hand by limiting when and how long she appears before the committee. Excellent article. Oliver Down there is, lovely fella. He's the current affairs correspondent for Unity News Network. They also went on to say Nicola Sturgeon stands accused of breaking the ministerial code up to 38 times. The First Minister and her inner circle are facing 14 separate resignation matters. The weight of evidence is overwhelming, and this is only what we know about. So much more continues to be hidden by the SNP. Wow, that's a hell of a lot. The person who is the victim, Sturgeon, Morell, Sweeney, Evans, Wolfe to be sacked, and I'm missing anybody. Yeah, that's right. I don't think anybody's going to miss them. So this is it. This is them going. This is up 38 times. It's beyond a joke now, guys. So I'm going to cover this stuff with Mr. Wolfie, and tomorrow. I'm sure I'm going to do a live stream from outside the Parliament. And thanks all of you for staying on so long with me. That was great. I really appreciate the good viewing numbers. But absolutely fascinating times just now. I'll be outside the Parliament live streaming tomorrow when she's in the court, and it'll be very interesting to see what time is wee Nippy on tomorrow. I'm not sure. I think she's on tomorrow at 12. I'm not sure. I'm guessing there. I'm just saying that because obviously what Alex has said when Alex was on. So I'm not sure when she'll be on, but I'll try and find out. Some way. Go down early tomorrow and give you some feedback on it. Guys, I've had a great time. What I'm going to do is get a session where you guys can ask me questions and do is it 9 a.m? 9 a.m. I think. Well, it was 12 for Alex Salmond, so I'll go down at 9 a.m. and actually see if she's on. Guys, you know I love you guys, and I will soon find out what's been said outside. Quite excited about this, seeing all the press. Oh, big day tomorrow, and we'll see what she says and what actually. Thanks guys, thank you very much. We'll find out what she's actually saying, which is going to be absolutely illuminating. And I think we're now seeing days away from the resignation of Nicola Sturgeon or being forced out of office, either or now. I think people are turning against her even internally within the SNP now. It's now become an unwinnable situation. I mean, she is an intelligent woman and she speaks very well, but she's led the country very badly. She's done a horrendous thing, and her and her cohort is going to have to pay the price for what they have done, and not treat the Scottish people as if they're stupid. So I'll cover Lord Advocate James Wolfe tomorrow, which I was planning to do today. I'll change the name of this thread, and I may actually nick theirs. I might nick theirs. I'll change that in some way. But I'll change the thread. But thanks very much, guys. You know I love my baby gorillas. I hope you enjoyed that. But breaking news, only a matter of days before Nicola Sturgeon is either forced out or has to resign. Forced out has to resign. It's not. There's nothing else that's going to happen now. Forced out, and there are other people that'll be following her out the door as well. Guys, you know I love my baby gorillas. Let's see if we can get out of this.